All right, welcome back, part two. We got cut off. There's a 15-minute cap. So before I go back to this, I want to go back and talk about one more thing I failed to mention. Um, when it comes to mental health, right? It's not on this wheel, but we're gonna spend a whole unit talking about mental health and the importance of that, and it kind of ties into abstractly here with intellectual wellness and emotional wellness. Those two are very kind of interchangeable as we talk about mental health. We'll get into that more often, but that's a very abstract understanding, and so we'll spend more time on that later. Okay, so back to our terms. Okay. Oh, I went ahead. So let's talk about culture, right? It's a shared set of attitudes, beliefs, values, and goals that a group practices and that are internalized by individuals within the group. So if you think about cultures of school, think about um, sophomore cultures compared to freshman cultures, right? There's a difference. It's a distinct grouping, right? It has similarities, but there's definitely differences. If you talk about Byron culture as opposed to Rochester, as opposed to Minnesota, as opposed to Texas, as opposed to Japan, right? All these things, they have their own different attitudes, values, and goals, okay? They have their own way of doing things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding that some cultures have different practices than others, and some are healthier than others, and understanding that there are some negative things in our culture that we adhere to, and we'll dissect those and talk about it more. Okay. Second one is drug, and that is any other substance other than food that affects the bodily functions and structures when taking it into the body. Right. So if you think about sugar, not technically classified as a drug because it is a nutrition thing, but it definitely has impact on our mental health, and we'll talk about that when we watch that sugar film. So it acts like a drug. It's very similar and functions like a drug. Caffeine is a drug, right? So it's not just illicit substances that are illegal and those kind of things. A lot of different things that we talk about in health are drugs, okay? Homeostasis is the body's natural state of balance and stability. It's the baseline which your body is normally at. Okay, so think about the last time you were really, really sad. Odds are it improved at some point. It got back up to baseline, and hopefully you're happier now. Think about the happiest you've ever been. You're probably still not there. It's probably dropped off, right? Back to a baseline, okay? And the same thing is with our health and wellness. It has a homeostasis. It has a baseline which it normally operates at. Self-efficacy is belief in one's ability to accomplish a goal or change a behavior. In health education, we're all about health efficacy. We want you to be able to believe that you can change the things that you want to and accomplish the goals that you have set and change negative behaviors and improve ones that could be better, right? That's self-efficacy. So we talked about neurotransmitters. They're chemicals which transfer messages in the brain. Your brain has a lot of different types of neurotransmitters, and it is dependent on their ability to do their job. Hormones are chemicals which transfer messages in the organs and body systems. So they're like neurotransmitters, but they exist in the body and not just the brain. So if you think about stress hormones, like cortisol is an important one, which we'll talk about. Um, Oxytocin is another one. Testosterone, estrogen, all of these things are hormones which transfer messages and put things into action, fight or flight responses, and everything in between. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that activates the pleasure and happiness and reward center of the brain. We're going to spend a ton of time talking about dopamine and its role, but for now, all I need you to know is dopamine equals happiness, right? It's activated anytime you do something pleasurable, and your brain says, ooh, I like that. That's dopamine. Okay. Cortisol, like I said, the stress hormone, it has a lot to do with mental health and weight gain, physical wellness, ulcers, those kind of things. It is very detrimental, but in short bursts, it is helpful and beneficial to health, and we'll talk about that. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that acts as a mood stabilizer and booster. So going back to our homeostasis, serotonin plays a big role in this, in balancing your mood. We'll talk about mental health disorders that impact the serotonin regulation and uptake, which limit our ability to return to homeostasis. Endorphins are neurotransmitters which reduce pain and cause euphoria. So any of you that are in sports or activities that kind of get that high right before you begin, I know cross country runners get those high, those runners high and that kind of things. Those are endorphins. Okay. Health promotion is an educational and informational process in which people are helped to change attitudes and behaviors and improve their health. That's health education. What you get in school is a type of health promotion. If you've ever seen an ad, maybe a billboard that said, think of 5 different types of berries before the next billboard, that in itself is health promotion. Any PSAs, public service announcements that you might have seen dealing with health, that's a form of health promotion. Okay. Predisposing factors are beliefs, values, attitudes, knowledge, and perceptions that influence our behavior. So they're kind of why the way you are, right? How you're raised, what you're taught about right and wrong, and what is healthy and what is not. These are all predisposing factors which need to be challenged when it comes to questioning our health. Okay. And then reinforcing factors are rewards, encouragement, and recognition that influence our behavior in the short run. So these are things that we want to make sure that you're doing to get to those goals that you have, to be more self-reliant and have that greater sense of self-efficacy. Okay? So the Quizlet is there. We'll have the quiz coming up on that Monday in a few days here. So I want you to study, but I want to talk about the assignment just briefly. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up. Maybe I'm going to pause the video for just a moment. Okay, and we're back. So this is the project that is our ELO number 1, and it is vitally important that we understand these concepts, right? So the whole point of this project that I'm assigning to you today is that I would like you to compare and contrast 2 different wellness areas. You can pick any of the 9 that we've talked about. My suggestion is you pick your strongest and weakest areas. It'll teach you a lot about yourself. You don't have to do that. You can pick any 2 that you would like to. Everyone is going to do their own personal presentation. If you want to work together, that is fine, as long as you turn in your own individual work. Okay. Remember, everything is on Google Classroom, right? So this is the Wellness Wheel, as we've talked about. There's not a lot of resources. A lot of this comes from your own brain, your own thoughts. You can use outside sources, and you should, but you'll see that there's not a whole lot of investigation in this assignment, right? So these are the questions that I am asking you to complete. I would like a definition in your own words. And again, all of these are talking about both domains, right? But I want you to define it in your own words, what it means to you and what it looks like. I've already given you my definitions, but I want to see what you can come up with. Again, you can't Google these. These are things that you have to do on your own. Talking about what is the importance of it. Why are these things important? So when it comes to social wellness, why is that important? Why do we need to work on that? You know, what is the overall impact on our health if it is struggling, etc.? Emotional, digital, whatever it may be, why is it important? Okay. Signs that you need to improve. You can look at this objectively, meaning what just in general, what everyone needs to improve on, like signs that someone just, Jane Doe needs to improve on, or what you as an individual could specifically improve on, right? So you could say, as a teacher, my occupational wellness, these are the things that I can improve on personally, A, B, and C, etc. Okay? How to improve in this domain is looking at, yes, I have some weaknesses. These are the things I need to work on. Now, what can I do to fix them? Or again, objectively, you could talk about in general, just how to improve. How do you get better at physical wellness? How do you get better at environmental wellness, right? I talked in the last video about if something is overdeveloped, right? We already know what a lot of these look like if they're underdeveloped. That should be easy. But again, this is the challenging part. What happens if this area is overdeveloped? So what does occupational wellness look like if it's too strong? What are the weaknesses that come from its strength? What are the problems if somebody focuses on this too much? Hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to email me if that does not make sense. How the 2 areas impact, overlap, and affect one another. Again, I talked about all of these are related. They all require one another. So the 2 that you pick on, I need you to explain what they have in common and how they are interacting with each other. So if intellectual wellness and environmental wellness, talking about maybe climate change deniers. That's a cheap jab, but talking about these different type of things, problem solving and the environment, right? They're definitely related, so we need to look at these. A source slide. If you have any sources that you've used, I just want the links, okay? Just put the links in an end slide or on that one slide. However you want to do it. I don't need APA or MLA. Just give me the source or the slide right to the source, okay? And then, of course, any pictures, GIFs, media you want to include, spice it up. Make it fun. Make it your own flavor. Have some fun with it. That's really what I'm looking for. Don't make it bland or cut and dry. Play with it, right? Have a good time with it. Okay. I have some examples here if you want to look at what other students have done. And here's how this assignment is scored. Okay. So here are the points that you will get. I'll let you pause and look at these if you need to. When it comes to that ELO scale, the 1 through 4, I need you guys to get a 3. This is really what I'm hoping for. If you can get a 4, that would be amazing. That means that you took these better than expected. You related the concepts to your life, and you could teach the class about these topics, right? That's what you want to strive for. However, you have to give it a 3. If you score below a 3 on this, you will get a lower score. So remember, you might do all of these things on the left. You might actually just jump through the hoops and talk about them, but not in detail and not in depth enough to prove to me that you've understood these things. So you could get 20 points and a 2, right? So again, that doesn't happen that often, but it's a possibility. So make sure you answer all of these things, but you strive for that 3 and the 4, okay? So that is the assignment. Good luck. Oh, I should say, of course, it is a slides presentation, if I haven't already said that, okay? So make it a slides presentation. There's not a minimum number of slides. You can do as many or as little as you want. Just make sure you're not putting big blocks of text on one slide. Break it up, use bullet points, whatever you need to. You can put 2 on the same slide and compare and contrast that way. It's totally up to you. Okay, good luck.